All right, everybody, what is going on? Welcome back to the Season 4 premiere of GRID Encore. I'm Ben Schneider, joined, as always, by my co-host, Brandon Crosslin. Brandon, how's it going tonight? How's your off-season? How are you doing?
That's a lot of questions, but I have very few answers. It was a great off-season. Lord's blessed us a lot, and I have to say, it's finally back. We have a Motor Monday, and I will drink this very seldomly because I have a very small bladder and we want to stay here the whole show. So not going to do that. But good to see you, Ben. Good to see you, everyone watching GRID Encore. Welcome back to 2020. Oh, welcome to 2025. Speed Week is coming. Speed Week is here. Got cars on track on Wednesday, and it all just starts there, man. I've been excited. I love the Rolex 24 and Bathurst and just getting the little spices here. Been watching GRID tonight and enjoying seeing Kobe, Josh, Joe, all of our friends getting ready for the season with you guys. And glad that Ben and I can finally get back where we're supposed to be here for the new year.
Yes, it's good to be back. Good to see Adam and our fearless leader, Joe Samaniego, in chat here as well. And thank you, Adam. I got to tell you, I'm honestly, I'm happy the Eagles won. Don't get me wrong, but I am. It is so delicious. The fact that they beat the Chiefs, the three-peat was denied. It's over. It's not happening. We can shelve those discussions for at least 2 more years. And because my adopted AFC team, I guess now is the Patriots, now when I'm up in New England, Tom Brady is still, I think, the greatest of all time. And as Stephen A. Smith said on First Take today, I think we can shove that conversation into a closet for at least 2 to 3 more years as well.
Yeah, his GOAT status is defended, and yeah, they didn't just beat the Chiefs. They punished them, dragged them through the mud, and it was a great game. And I was an Eagles fan for 4 whole quarters. Can you believe it? Congratulations, Ben. Fly, Eagles, fly, for sure.
Yes. Yeah, good to see Kobe as well. I got to tell you, I get so nervous with my Philly sports teams and, all across
As
the
you
board.
should.
Yeah, Phillies, Flyers, Sixers, Union, Wings, Phoenix, Water Dogs. I'm sure I'm the WNBA team is hopefully coming in a few years. I know we put that bid in. But man, I got to tell you, I think that for me personally, it's the Sixers. I'm a big basketball fan, but I think if you ask most people in Philadelphia, like if you ask most New Yorkers, they'll probably tell you it's the Yankees. If you ask most people in Los Angeles, they'll probably tell you it's the Lakers. Everybody's got that one team. And I think for the city of Philadelphia, the Eagles, for most people, are that one team. I'm sure that the parade on Broad Street here, it's going to be on Valentine's Day on Friday. And if it's anything like the parade was 7 years ago in 2018, city of Philadelphia is going to party quite hard, I think, over the next few days here.
For Eastern PA, I know the U.S. Census is this year. They might want to check babies born 9 months from now, from the month of February.
Yeah, I have a feeling that's going to boom as well. But no, it was so. Like I said, I get so nervous with these games and with these teams here. This is the first time. I mean, my goodness, I'm trying to think. I don't remember watching much of Super Bowl 41. I think the Bears and the Colts. I mean, I think I was only
it's like 2008, 2007.
So, yeah, my memory would be a little fuzzy anyway. But that's the first time in a long time that I have made a conscious decision. I'm like, I cannot watch the Super Bowl. And it was like if it was Bills, Eagles, even if it was like Chiefs, 49ers again, like it was last year, I would have said. But the fact that it was these 2 teams, I was like, I'm going to stress myself out. I'm going to get mad at the inevitable ticky-tack flag that gets flown and whatever. So
Kobe was trying his hardest to get you to tune in. He was like, watch him blow this 24-point lead.
I turned my phone off, Brandon. I put it on the other side of the room. I was
Good for you.
Just forget about it. I want nothing to do with it. So we played a little bit of PlayStation, and then we popped a History Channel documentary Blu-ray into the PlayStation, watched that, and then I found out it was 40-6. And then I said, if it's still, I mean, not that it wasn't out of hand. You know what? I never want to call it, right? I saw they were up 24-0 at halftime. I was like, there was a team that was up 28-3 with much less time than this to go, and they still found a way to
It's
win.
Also Atlanta, so it's a little different story, I would think.
That's true as well. But 2-minute warning, I turned it back on, or turned it on for the first time, rather, and then
it was already over.
Well, I saw Mahomes throw a 50-yard bomb.
Well, yeah,
garbage time, and I was like, okay,
they do that.
I'm telling you, it's not over until the clock hits 000. And I was like, I still didn't want to call until we recovered the onside kick, and then they went into the victory formation there. But you're right. I mean, 40-22 really does not tell the full story there.
It doesn't at all. No.
A complete beatdown and a very satisfying one. If that, apologies to our friend Alex Anderson now at ATYL Media, and I saw his first video came out today. So he's I know going to kill it over there this season, but I know he's also from Kansas City. So my apologies to him, but I do feel like I can gloat a little bit for 24 hours. This is sweet revenge for us here in the city of Philadelphia.
Well, just to boost our SEO, I was wondering if Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift were going to propose if the Chiefs won here. There might be a breakup song coming. So again, Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift. Just helping that optimization, Ben.
I think Jason Kelce was probably the only one that was happy with this matchup across the board. Everybody was,
and their mother was happy with both.
Well, yeah, and Donna Kelce too, I guess. But he was like, well, we hate the Chiefs team because they win all the time and they get all the calls, and we hate the Eagles because we hate their fan base. So everybody was rooting for a giant meteor, I guess, outside of Kansas City or Philadelphia. But Jason Kelce was like, I guess, in a situation where he couldn't lose. But speaking of Taylor Swift and pop stars, I did see video surfaced from 2 years ago. Tate McRae apparently predicted the final score 40-22. She was just off by 2 years because I think she was saying that for the last time the Eagles and Chiefs met in the Super Bowl. But that was an interesting.
She predicted it like 2 years ago.
She predicted it 2 years ago, I think, for the game 2 years ago. But obviously
for that game, I thought she was like after that game, she's like revenge is coming 2 years from now. She got the score right, but it was just it was 2 years off. So like that would be wild, yeah,
good for her. Well, it's wild enough, but yeah. But anyway, so great game. I'm gonna have to go back and try to rewatch it. I don't know, maybe Tubi still has a copy up for a little while. I know they were streaming the game for free, but I got to at least catch up on the highlights here. But I'll do that after the show here tonight. We've got some silly season news to recap, some predictions to get into here. But before we start, as always, I want to give a shout out to our Patreon investors. It's been a couple months since I brought this graphic up. Hopefully I can still find it. There we go. Colin, Michelle, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew, thank you so much for your continued support of this team here at the Grid Network. It's hard for me to believe this is my 5th year now that I'm going into with this team, and 4th season doing this show with you, Brandon. And it's been a pleasure all the way. And we'll see where we head here in 2025. I've got bigger and better hopes for the future here. And if you want to be a part of that, help us get to the track on a more regular basis, covering races on site, expanding our coverage for you all. If you like what you see tonight, you can consider joining these 6 wonderful individuals in our Patreon, helping us pay the bills for 2025 and beyond, and continuing to grow this motorsports media outlet.
Yeah, we were saying backstage, Ben, I'm basically a senior now in high school here at Grid Network, and you're a grad assistant. You've come back to help the faculty. Yeah. I guess a graduate student or a TA now. It's year 5 for me. I don't know. Did I redshirt a year? Maybe I'm a redshirt senior.
Redshirt. Yeah. We can mess around with that a little bit. Good to see Amber, one of our regulars in the chat here. And yes, fly Eagles fly. Absolutely. If you missed the beginning of the show, that was basically the entire opening 6 minutes or so us talking about the Super Bowl last night. I think it was a great game all around for everybody in Philadelphia, at least. Maybe not so much for Kansas City, but Kobe says Ben could be a super senior. I guess you go with that as well. So, Brandon, like I said, this show has kind of evolved a little bit over the years, and before we get into the show tonight, I kind of just want to lay the groundwork for what people can expect on the Encore show this year. When we started, it was Grid Live Encore, obviously, and we tried to structure it very much like the Saturday and Sunday pre-race and wrap-up shows, and that went well enough for a little while. But the more I thought about it, I have enjoyed having a little bit more creative control over what we do here, and I want to thank Joe and Kobe for believing in me and trusting me to take my vision for this show and kind of make it my own. And as we did that, we realized, the show kind of has a separate identity. It's structured a little bit differently. We tend to script our weekend shows, and Live Encore is kind of an oxymoron anyway. So why don't we just call it Grid Encore? We shortened the name on the air half the time anyway. We'd say make sure you tune into the Encore show tomorrow or the Grid Encore show tomorrow. So we took the live off the name last year, and I want to kind of continue to do that here in 2025. I want to, have these conversations be a little bit more unscripted, open-ended with our conversations here. So viewers can come to expect that as they have over the last couple of years now, really, I guess. The other thing I want to let people know Obviously, if you watch this show for a while, you remember some old names. We had Casey Campbell here for a while. He was a big help for us on the road to Indy. And Joshua Birch, I mean, my goodness, he has been great for us with Formula 2, Formula 3.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, Casey's at a different point in his life right now with what he wants to cover. He's doing a lot more high school sports and stepped away last year, and we wish him nothing but the best. And Josh as well. If you watch Grid tonight, you certainly know Josh is still as involved as ever here at the Grid Network and still on the weekend shows occasionally. But his channel, JV Motorsports, has also really taken off over the last year or so. He's gotten a lot of new subscribers, a lot of new things that he's trying to cover for his channel, and running his own team and his own channel, trying to make all of that work. So he has not been available for us as often as he was at the start in more 2022, 2023 or so. And we certainly, excuse me, we're really happy for him, and we want to respect, his channel and his opportunities that he's gotten over the last couple of years as well. So as far as I'm concerned, Josh has an open offer anytime he wants to come back on the Encore show here. We're just not going to, twist his arm and make that an expectation of him here in 2025. So if you come to this show for the Indy Next and Formula 2, Formula 3 coverage here, I'm not telling you that we're not covering those series this year. We're absolutely still going to try to do our best. I'm going to have Joe put together those results graphics like he always does. And again, we thank him for all the work that he does behind the scenes to keep this show running as well. But I just want to let everybody know that without Casey and Josh, it's going to be a little bit harder for us to balance covering those series. And of course, if we get a major story, of course, Haley Deegan's racing in Indy Next this year. If she, progresses and starts running well, I'm sure that's going to be a big storyline that will be worth covering. Jackson Lambros has been on the show a couple of times to help us with Indy Next. So, we're going to do our best. But I think here in 2025, the main focus is definitely going to be Xfinity and trucks and the ARCA platforms that Brandon and I are most familiar with. So that's what you can come to expect.
If there's something worth covering, we won't be able to help ourselves. We'll have to talk about it. It will come out.
Yeah, sorry. I think Brandon, one of us cut out there for a second. Can you?
Oh, I just said, yeah, just but believe us, if there's something worth covering on anything that's not full-bodied stock car, we won't be able to help ourselves. We'll have to cover it
for sure.
Yeah.
So that's what. Again, I just want to thank everybody for their support here over the last 3 full years as we head into year 4. That's what you can expect from the Encore show. And, like I said, I'm looking forward to another great year with you, Brandon. And we're going to get started with it right here, right now, tonight. And I want to start with an open segment here. We're going to get into previewing Speed Week, as you accurately called it now, Brandon. I wish that, the traditionalist in me still wishes we had Cup qualifying to recap that happened yesterday. And as great as the Clash event at Bowman Gray was, there is part of me that still misses that tradition that we all had growing up. But we are where we are now. There's not as much to recap. I want to congratulate Trevor Huddleston on winning the ARCA West race at Kern, opening up his season with a bang there. So, there is some racing that's starting up. I think the Modifieds had a race as well. I believe Patrick Emmerling won that down in New Smyrna. So
don't forget the World Series of Asphalt. Yeah, it's going on all throughout this week. And Connor Jones almost picked up a victory, but was had that problem in post race. And then it was Hunter Wright that ended up winning that event and in pro late models, I think. And then Hunter Wright's also scored another victory also in that World Series of Asphalt as well. But yeah, it's a big event down there all week long there at New Smyrna. Yep.
Yeah. So as we get ready for that, I think the biggest storyline that came out of last weekend, though, or last Friday night especially, was the Hall of Fame, the induction ceremony for the class of 2025. Of course, we knew we were going to honor Ralph Moody, Ricky Rudd, and Carl Edwards. Dr. Dean Sicking also picking up the landmark award, very much deserved there as well. But Brandon, I just want to, I'll start with you. I'll give you the opportunity. What was your reaction to hearing from those individuals or their families last night? And what stood out to you from the Hall of Fame ceremonies?
Well, most of all was Carl Edwards. I heard some things, not exactly the speech of Ricky Rudd. I really need to go back and hear that. But of course, hearing about um, the talking about Ralph Moody and all he did there. But Carl Edwards was the one that was able to see in full. And I completely agree with you. Just like Jeff Gluck said, that is the Hall of Fame speeches, because it takes a lot of guts to go up there and make your entire theme about how grateful you are for all the people, all the maybe all the pain you may have put some people through. I never really thought, maybe I didn't look at him hard enough, but I never really thought of Carl Edwards as a hotshot jerk, in his career. Didn't really think of him like that. But again, probably wasn't looking at him closely enough as a kid. But that was just a well prepared speech all the way through, and just had that central theme of gratefulness, and really laid down the truth of, like, this is why I left. Please don't speculate anymore. I've been telling you the truth this whole time. I left because I saw Dale Jr.'s scare of hit it, if you hit your head just the wrong way, that could be it. He wanted to spend time with his family, but like a driver at the top of his game. That's Carl Edwards. That was Carl Edwards, and leaving the sport like that, it just left a lot of us dumbfounded. Like, how could you possibly just leave and move off to some other part of the country? And he laid it out quite clearly and very sweetly too. I'm sure there was not many dry eyes in that audience. It was just it was wonderful.
Brandon, it moved me. It really did. And like you said, like I tweeted earlier today, I know Brock Beard, my editor-in-chief at lastcar.info, finally got around to watching those speeches this afternoon, and was saying the same thing. It is in the Hall of Fame speeches. If I had to think off the top of my head, the time that I've been that moved, I think the only thing that I can think of that rivals it was maybe Vanessa Bryant giving Kobe's Hall of Fame speech. Of course, we lost Kobe Bryant in basketball about a little more than a year before he was inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame. So that was a real emotional speech. But this was just, it was worth all 20 minutes. And I know, but there was that tweet that Bob Pockris put out saying, Carl's not going to stick to the 8-minute time limit here.
Yeah.
It helps that, there's a NASCAR channel on Tubi now where there's no like set time schedule, I guess, that they have to keep track of with a TV broadcast or whatever. But I loved that he thanked everybody from Coach Gibbs to Jack Roush to his family. Mike Midler, somebody that, took a chance on him when he was just starting out and gave him that Truck Series ride. I love that he shouted Mike Midler out. And, again, I think, Brandon, I know you were saying you didn't think of him as a hothead necessarily, but my biggest memory of Carl Edwards growing up, well, there's two, I guess. It was, people know, if they watch this show, they know how I feel about Cup drivers racing in the lower divisions. And, Carl really, came into the Cup and Busch Series at the time, full-time, both in 2005. I know he finished the 2004 season, but, I know he was still at the beginning of his full-time career when he was doing his bushwhacking, so to speak. But I don't care. I'm very consistent. I'm not like these fans that say, like, oh, they just don't like it when Kyle Busch does it because he wins all the time. Well, Carl Edwards was winning all the time when I was a kid, and I was like, he was one of the worst offenders of the bushwhacking practice. So that was reason number one why I wasn't a particularly huge fan. Reason number two was because, obviously AJ Allmendinger was my number one, and Dave Blaney, I would say, is probably my number two. But I really liked Brad Keselowski. I thought he had a great story of somebody who, didn't come from a super rich family or background. Of course, his father, Bob Keselowski, made his name in trucks and ARCA, and, his brother Brian was still trying to nickel and dime his way to whatever he could get nationwide at the time. And here comes Brad, and he gets this great opportunity with Dale Jr. and then Rick Hendrick and then Roger Penske, and became a championship contender in nationwide and Cups so quickly. And who was his biggest rival? around 2010, right? Who put him in the catch fence at Atlanta, who spun him in that nationwide race at Gateway with a right rear hook, something that I think would have probably gotten him a 1-race suspension under today's precedent that's been set. That was Carl Edwards. So again, I was not a Carl Edwards fan by any means. I know some people probably think I've been cheerleading him over the last year as he's been selected into the Hall of Fame. I was not a Carl Edwards fan growing up. But I think over the years, it really started probably around 2011, that great championship battle with Tony Stewart that came down to a tiebreaker, of course. Just the grace and humility that Carl showed in defeat there. And then 5 years later, of course, in 2016. And when he said, I'm so grateful that we didn't win that championship because it gave me the time to reflect.
That was big.
And to think it. Yeah. I mean, and that, again, I think, and you saw it was a theme all throughout his speech. I mean, he called himself a douchebag for crying out loud, just thinking back to, how he was, when he was younger, just starting out in his career and not respecting his peers on the racetrack as much as he wishes he would have, and talking about how that was his biggest regret. I think that his story from start to finish is one of those stories where I think, and again, it speaks to also how abruptly he retired. There are certain superstars in sports who I don't think you really appreciate fully until they're gone or until they're retired or stepped away, and you don't see them at the racetrack on a regular basis. Carl is certainly one of those drivers. And I think that you look at his body of work, like I said, you tell somebody, I always say it's not the Cup Hall of Fame, right? It's the NASCAR Hall of Fame. So if you tell somebody, forget the driver, that just give you a resume, 38 wins in the Xfinity Series and a championship there and 4 other runner-ups in the championship. If that's all anybody ever did, I think they're in the Hall of Fame. And then you couple that with 28 Cup Series wins and to do it all in just a 12-year time period. I mean, Carl was not in the sport. I think people might forget this. And Brandon, I know you and I kind of grew up with him coming into the sport. But he was not in the sport for as long as, the Jeff Gordons or Jimmy Johnsons or Dale Earnhart Jr.'s of the world were. So I think that, people said like, oh, he left so abruptly. How can you put him in? I think it only strengthens his case. The fact that he racked up those numbers in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think he even brought up at the end of all that, I think he had a relationship with God at the end. I mean, he even brought that into play at the end. Yeah.
I think, again, I don't know when I cut out there, and if I clip this, I'll make sure to edit it so that it's comes across more smoothly. But apologies if I think my internet dipped for a good minute there, so I had to step back out and come back in. But I think, again, that to your point, Brandon, that just goes along with the theme of maturity and grace and humility, and I think that really came across throughout his entire speech. So, again, I think that what I was trying to say, and this is, I think, about where I cut out. People have a debate of, maybe there are enough names on the ballot that, he should have had to wait a couple more years. If that's your stance, then I think that, that's fine. Like I said, I still I think it's criminal how long Neil Bonnet has had to wait, and the Harry Hydes of the world, Jack Sprague. I mean, the fact that he's only getting nominated now, for crying out loud, I think is pretty ridiculous as well. So if he wasn't on your ballot for this particular induction ceremony, then that's fine. But the people that say he's not a Hall of Famer, I'm sorry. I could not disagree with that more. And I think you saw through his speech last night, or not last night, rather, this past weekend, last Friday night, I think he really proved that he belongs to be in that same category as not just Ricky Rudd and Ralph Moody, but all of his contemporaries that have come before him that have been honored in that way, and all of the ones that will come here over the next several years in the Hall of Fame as well. So again, I wanted to make sure that didn't go unnoticed here, because I think, like Jeff Gluck said, Hall of Fame speeches Carl Edwards gave on Friday night.
Yeah, and I didn't realize whenever he said Hall of Fame speeches, he wasn't just talking about the NASCAR Hall of Fame, I suppose. He was talking about just all Hall of Fames of all time. So when you mentioned Kobe Bryant, that induction. I didn't even think of that being a possibility. Of it's all the Hall of Fames put together. That's one of the greatest, might be one of the greatest Hall of Fame speeches ever, and that's amazing that comes from Charlotte and the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Because I was just thinking in the realm of NASCAR Hall of Fame speeches, and top of my mind, I think Jeff Gordon might be the only other one that was touching, I guess. I mean, Jeff Gordon and talking out to the crowd, but that's the only one that would really come to mind.
Yeah, it makes me want to go back and rewatch some of the ones we've had from recent years. See if any compare to that and live up to the standard that Carl set. Not to diminish, of course. I think Ricky Rudd gave a great speech as well, and I love the picture that they showed on behind the screen there. I guess Carl was on Mount Kilimanjaro, and his Sherpa had a Texaco Avalon Ricky Rudd hat, and Ricky was saying, "I'm still not convinced that Carl didn't set that up for me and just send me the pic." But he was like, "Dude, you're world famous." I thought that was a nice moment as well, and it solidified them going in the same year here in 2025 for sure. All right. Well, if you want to check out the full speech, like I said, I totally think it's worth the 20 minutes, and NASCAR posts that on all of their social media channels, so you can go check that out. In the meantime, looking at some of the greats from the past, let's look at perhaps some of the greats that we'll see in the future. The ARCA Menard Series has their season opener this weekend at Daytona, and it's a very strong entry list for the second year in a row. Looks like we're going to see some cars sent home here. But Brandon, we've talked a lot about the ARCA Series on the show in the past, and it kind of being a mixed bag the last several years. I think the East Series and West Series sound like they might struggle for car count this year. But as for the main ARCA Menard Series, at least getting started here at Daytona, we've got another very strong entry list. What stands out to you, and are you excited for the ARCA Menard Series to come back this weekend at Daytona?
If you're excited for ARCA, you're excited for ARCA at Daytona. It just goes together. You got to have this on your calendar, and if you're new to it, you've got to be ready for this. We are always looking at the Toyotas, of course, because they tend to bring the just the overall speed at ARCA at Daytona, which tends to be more of a factor with ARCA than it is in any of the other series, just because of how separated they can get in single file at times. But really excited about Chili's hopping on board. What about that? The Ride the Dente 200. And I think they're celebrating their Presidente margarita. That's been a staple at Chili's for millennia, but the things that people that stand out to me, of course, William Sawalich, Joe Gibbs. That's kind of hard to root against. Anyone with Max Siegel on their car usually is a fast machine. I see Chevrolet there, LeVar Scott. Got to be a great contender. Another front runner that's catching my eye, another Toyota, Lawless Allen. And then looking for Greg Van Alst. May have him, may not. I would think so. See Amber Balkin there. Tim Richmond in a Toyota. And Dale Quarterly. I think we both can agree we're ready to see what Dale Quarterly can do in one of his starts of the year. Going to have Shane Wilson as crew chief. He'll be in that Chevrolet.
Yeah, I know Greg has some Xfinity starts planned this year. I think they're going to run about half the schedule there, but I am not seeing him on at least not the preliminary entry list for the ARCA race, which is unfortunate. Of course, Greg won this race 2 years ago, and I think would be a threat to win it again should he find a ride for that. But I also don't know. Maybe his priority is going all in on this Xfinity program. So, we certainly wish him the best over there as well. But a name that stands out to me, of course, and you've heard it on Women in Motorsports as well, Isabella Robusto, full-time for Venturini this year alongside Lawless Allen. She's going to be one I think you're going to want to keep an eye on for sure. I'm very excited to see how she's going to do here in her super speedway debut. And Garrett Mitchell, You might know him as Cletus McFarland if you're on YouTube, but he is entered in this race. I know he showed up to the test, the preseason test last month in January.
Owner of the Freedom Factory, I think it's called.
Freedom Factory, that's
formerly
exactly
DeSoto
right.
Speedway.
And he is going to be in that number 30 car for Red Jones. So again, certainly not just in the ARCA race, but in solid equipment as well.
If that Garrett Mitchell, that guy can bring some eyeballs to the series for sure. And it was brought up on the Sirius XM channel several days ago that talking about places where you could possibly have the Clash or just crazy things like that. They're like, bring it to the Freedom Factory or something, because Garrett Mitchell could go ham with making video content out of it and stuff. That's a little far fetched, but this is probably the next best thing, though, having him come as an entry in your sport. So to have Cletus McFarland come out to, and I hope he has that on the car and it's not Garrett Mitchell. But yes, Cletus McFarland is one of the coolest racing names. I agree, Kobe.
Let's catch up on the chat here a little bit. I want to shout out Adam again. Carl Edwards' speech was incredible and amazing. Loved it, absolutely. And Adam brings up another good question here. How will Elio Castroneves do in the ARCA race at Daytona? Much like Shane Van Gisbergen last year, Elio is going to be running this race to gain some super speedway experience. Brandon, how do you see him doing?
Well, let's see. He's got Shane Huffman on the War Wagon in a Chevrolet and got Wendy's on the hood. So I would say he's got some horsepower. He's got some good equipment. They're gonna have to have the best. But Spider-Man in an ARCA car, didn't think we'd see the day, but I also didn't think we'd see the day that he'd have a Daytona 500 open entry. Well, it's not open. He's guaranteed in. We'll talk about that later.
That's coming up later.
Yes, it is.
Nice segue.
Yes, if he plays his cards right, this is basically going to be a learning thing, just like Shane Van Gisbergen was last year, like you said. So I didn't expect a world of performance from SVG when we saw him in the ARCA race last year. I mean, he might be able to fortune his way into a win. I expect sort of the same kind of thing for Elio Castroneves. Safe open entry. Thank you, Joe. I expect sort of the same sort of outcome for Elio Castroneves. Again, you're never in a race not to win as a race car driver. You're definitely going to try to get that win, but he's basically there to get that that feel of a closed wheel machine, and at the Daytona International Speedway on that oval. Of course, he has plenty of experience on the road course for the Rolex 24, but looking forward to seeing what he can do, though.
And Joe brings up another good question as well. Any thoughts on the kind of racing we'll see? Big wild pack or single file and calm until the last lap? Brandon, what are you thinking?
Like I said earlier, I think it's going to be single file once again, and we're going to be scratching our heads of why aren't they moving, and we're going to be poking them with a stick, and might be in the last 5 laps when they finally say that it's go time.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm leaning towards too. I think, obviously we have a solid car count this year, so maybe a full field will make it a little bit easier for the pack to get 2 or maybe even 3 wide. But I think you're probably, you're probably going to see it single file for most of the day. And then with a handful of laps to go, maybe somebody can try to get a run and disrupt. So I'd hope that it's not, again, Jake finishes on the central list as well, and I think he's one to keep an eye on, but I think he basically led every lap at Talladega last year. It was not a great race for the fans in terms of entertainment value. Of course, I think back to the Daytona race 2 years ago that Greg Van Alst won. I think that's one of the best ARCA races we've had in recent years because we got that side-by-side racing. We got that pack racing. We really didn't see a massive, big accident in that race, and we got the pack across the line pretty much in one piece there. So if we can get that again, I think we'll be golden.
I'm afraid that's like an every 4-year kind of race. I think we got really fortunate with the Greg Van Alst year, which was 2023. But yeah, very, very fortunate with that. But I agree with you with Isabella Robusto. We were harping on her success at the close of last season, and I think that might have been one of the folks that you had a chance to talk to at at Portland?
I believe Joe did.
Joe did. Okay,
yeah.
Sorry, Joe. I'm stealing your thunder there, but yeah, we did get a Grid Network microphone to Isabella, so looking forward to see what she can do there. And of course, got the Toyota to back it up. All Venturini cars have the ability to stay up front, and if they don't, there's something terribly wrong.
Yeah, it is a great opportunity for Isabella this year, and again, I'm really looking forward to seeing what she can do. And I'm sure Women in Motorsports will be back periodically throughout the year, so you can check out that podcast or that show. When we start taping episodes there for that as well. And of course, when we do, we'll be covering Isabella Robusto's season as a major part of that as well, just as much here on Encore, because like I said, she's full-time this year, which I was really pulling for. So great to see her get that opportunity after some strong runs and a couple of near wins last year in ARCA and ARCA West as well. So we'll see what she can do. Excuse me. I was screaming a little bit last night with the game and everything. I think I'm kind of losing my voice here, so I'll do my best to keep soldiering on here as we come up to the 37.
Do you have any direct quotes from that screaming last night? Anything you can share? I'm really curious.
I think it's probably best if we leave that off the record here. But
10-4.
I want to try to get us out of here by 8:00 because Brock is premiering episode 10 of 500 Days at 8:00. So I want to let our viewers direct them over there. And I want to head over there myself. So we'll try to be out of here for everybody by the top of the hour here.
We'll do it.
We do have some more silly season to recap here. So we'll go through a couple of bullet points all throughout the top 3 series. We'll start with the trucks. Daniel Hemrick is at McAnally Hilgeman now and trying to kind of reinvent himself. It's been a rough couple of years for him ever since he won that 2021 Xfinity title. A rough start to his year as well. The ARCA West race at Kern, fading to a 9th place finish there with a mechanical issue in the closing laps. But Brandon, do you like this opportunity for him, and do you think that this is a chance for him to reinvent himself by going back down to the truck series?
Yeah, it's not too often been that championship and reinventing themselves happen so quickly back to back, but that is the stock car world we live in now, as he was able to win the Xfinity Series championship with no wins throughout the 2022 season. And
21.
What?
20. Title was 21.
21. Thank you. 21.
Yeah. He won the Phoenix race, but that's his only win.
Right. Went all year.
Right.
Made it just enough.
That's right.
Yeah. The years are slipping away. So I thought it was 22 and it's 21. Thank you. But yeah, was able to get it done on the final lap of the championship race. But, had that time with RCR before when they were in an identity crisis as well, in the 8 car. It's just been a roller coaster for Daniel Hemrick, and now the being with Colleague last year and going to the truck series, it's got to be humbling to have to do that. I think of Matt DiBenedetto and the situation he's with Rackley War this year. Also another driver that has seen the mountaintop of sorts and is in some dire, you need to reinvent yourself or else sort of situation. But Daniel Hemrick, he could have success with McAnally Hilgeman, excuse me. Tyler Ankerman as a teammate. Also Connor Mozak, Jack Wood, that sort of bunch for him. Some young guys around him. He's not that young, but he's a Kannapolis guy. He's tough. So in the truck series, you got to be gritty. You got to be tough and not be afraid to push someone lovingly out of the way if you want to win at some of these places. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do there for McAnally Hilgeman Racing. And I promise I'll be able to say that before we get to Daytona. Yeah,
well, and it's been a while, like you mentioned.
It's been a little bit getting the dust off.
Well, I meant it's been a while for Hemrick in the truck series.
It has. Yeah.
Pulling the stats up here, he did a one-off for Young's Motorsports in 2018, but that's his only start since he was full-time with Brad Keselowski's truck team. You remember Brad Keselowski owned a truck team?
Yeah, BKR.
Everybody knows RFK today. But Hemrick was one of many drivers that came up through Keselowski's truck program, and again had several top 5 finishes, never quite broke through to victory lane. We'll see if he can do that. He's certainly going to have the equipment. If Christian Eckes' season last year is any indication, of course, Eckes moving up to Xfinity with colleague. But he had a great year last year, really an all-time historic year, and it's unfortunate that that year is not going to be remembered with a championship. But he certainly is going to have the equipment to get the job done in the Truck Series this year. Somebody else who is going to have that equipment and I think has proven himself quite a bit, Corey Heim. Brandon, do you think that this is finally going to be his year where he breaks through and captures that elusive championship trophy?
I mean, he broke through last year, Ben. What are we talking about? I mean, no championship, but I mean,
that's what I'm talking about. The title.
Yes. But I mean, last year was Corey Heim's year. I mean, for the Truck Series, all we could think about was Corey Heim. Most weekends. Now, not coming to my head exactly where we were all season long with the other results, but Corey Heim was a motif all through 2024, and championship is well within his horizon. It's got to happen this year, next year, but this year would be as a good one as any for the man in question there.
Yeah, 6 wins last year, if counting that right here. 6 wins. And second in points, of course. Ty Majeski won the championship last year, and he'll be back to defend his title as well with Thor Sport Racing. But I think, again, Corey Heim, we saw him get some cup opportunities last year when he was filling in for Eric Jones of a Legacy Motor Club car. No shortage of talent behind the wheel, but is still looking to break through and capture that elusive championship trophy. So we'll see if he can do that this year. I think there's a lot of hype surrounding that young man, just as there is for Connor Zilic in the Xfinity Series. Talked about making an impression, winning on debut last year at Watkins, at Watkins Glen, and he's going to get some cup opportunities this year as well. Red Bull's back in the Cup Series as a sponsor with both Zilic and Shane Van Gisbergen going to have that on their car for a handful of races this year. But Brandon, we're already talking Cup Series with this young man. Do you believe the hype for Connor Zilic and what he's been able to showcase so quickly here in stock car racing?
He sure is being peddled in the marketplace nowadays, isn't he? He's being touted as the real deal, and you probably can pull back a quote from me last year saying he's the real deal and being very serious and stuff. I may have changed my tune a little bit over the offseason, maybe calmed down a little bit. Yes, the Xfinity Series schedule is a lot more, and all the series schedules are a lot more road course driver friendly. I mean, you have to know how to do that sort of skill set to be successful in our top 3 series now. And so, yeah, Connor Zilic has a lot of potential, and he's already shown us what he can do. But I think particularly his skill set lies within the road courses. Ovals, it's yet to be seen. That's why I'm so excited for not only for him, his full-time status in Xfinity this year, but also just for Junior Motorsports as a whole. Really excited for Junior Motorsports and just the landscape they're putting together, what they look like this year, and just having the 88, having the 8, and just the stylistically too, not just their driver choices, but stylistically, it's good to see Junior Motorsports look more like themselves, I guess, in a ways. Of course, Sam Mayer has moved on to the Haas factory team, and so you got some changes there as well. But yeah, a lot of potential for Connor Zilic. I don't think he's the best thing since sliced bread. I don't think he's a big generational phenom talent, whatever you want to call it, yet. But this is going to be a very important year for him.
Yeah, I think that certainly could be within his reach for the future.
Yes, certainly.
The last driver that they call sliced bread has won 3 cup championships now, so that's a very high bar that he would have to clear to be the greatest thing since sliced bread, I guess you could say.
He is the real deal, but I don't know if he's sliced bread yet. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, we'll see what he can do this year, though. Like you mentioned, the 88 is back. I guess that kind of replaces the 9. The 9's going to be the part-time car for that team this year, and so far the only starts we have confirmed for that car are Ross Chastain and Shane Van Gisbergen. I guess it's kind of a little early to call SVG a Cup Series leech or a bushwhacker or whatever, but he's going to be full-time in Cup this year, so I guess technically he is. But
yeah,
that's going to be your Junior Motorsports part-time car this year.
And can I just say I love that change for the 9 to go back, to be behind the scenes and be a part-time for Junior Motorsports, because it came about because of Chase Elliott. And now that 9 belongs to Hendrick Motorsports. And I know Junior Motorsports and Hendrick are friends, great friends, as a matter of fact, sharing drivers and whatnot. But it really does help the identity and keep that number separated, where it really truly can be Chase Elliott's number now. I really like that. I'm very hardwired that way to like the aesthetic things like that. And that's one of those things that really is satisfying.
And you got to love the aesthetic on Sammy Smith's car in number 8 coming back, that trademark font.
Long time coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Justin Allgaier will be back to defend his championship in the 7. Carson Kvapil is going to be full-time as well in the 1. So 2 rookies making the Junior Motorsports lineup this year. Harrison Burton also back in the Xfinity Series. He'll be full-time with AM Racing. Of course, Josh Berry stepping into the Wood Brothers 21. No Cup ride for Harrison this year, despite getting that win at Daytona. So he's another driver trying to reinvent himself by going back down to Xfinity. Brandon, what are you expecting from him in 2025?
It's a very important year for Harrison Burton, much more than Connor Zilisch, I will say. Winning Summer Daytona last year was amazing, and having that moment with Jeff Burton and Lee Diffie's call being just second to none. But coming into this year, AM Racing closely tied with the Ford camp. Got to remember last year with the Chicago Street Course, whenever Haley Deegan was out, Joey Logano was in for that. I think it was Joey for that one race, and then they went through some other Ford drivers. I think Josh Berry also went in there afterwards, instantly better. So they've got the equipment to do it when the driver talent is there. Harrison Burton is talent. He is talented, just not talented lately. I think, is that a fair statement?
I think that's yeah. I mean, I want to take away from his Daytona win, but it was a struggle in those 3 years in the Cup car.
Yeah. As far as results, talented driver from Sobo, but not talented lately. Besides the Daytona win, of course, Wood Brothers equipment, they are so closely aligned with Penske that we would think there wouldn't be much of an excuse to have a lack of performance in the 21, but we'll see how Josh Berry can do with that this year. It was exciting to see that at the Bowman Gray Clash, and able to rough some paint there for Josh Berry. But Harrison Burton and AM Racing, it's a super important year for him, and it's going to be interesting to follow that all year long.
All right, we'll move on now to the Cup Series, and this is what I think you were teasing a little bit earlier. Brandon, with Elio Castroneves, of course, he's going to be in the ARCA race. We also know that he will be in the Daytona 500 because his Project 91 entry has been given this open exemption provisional, which will lock him into the field, could potentially add a 41st car to the field should he not qualify his way in the old-fashioned way. But what do you think of that rule, Brandon? I mean, I enjoy the possibility of seeing the car count go up by 1, especially with all the big names this year. But it does kind of feel like a slippery slope and something that's pretty arbitrary, but NASCAR could just hand out at their discretion.
Well, on the way home from work, I saw your note there about it being a slippery slope, and my instant reaction was just like, "Come on, really? Slippery slope? Come on! Are we just?" And no offense to you, Ben, are we just fighting for arguments here? But no. And then I thought about, I calmed down, I thought about it, and then decided, you know what, you do have a point, because when these sorts of things happen, we let anyone in. Well, he's not just anyone though. He's a multiple Indy 500 champion, and has the potential to win more than anyone ever has at the greatest spectacle in racing. But it kind of opens a door. I see what you mean of who exactly are we going to let in after this. I'm all in favor for just more cars on the grid. 41 cars sounds amazing for the Daytona 500. I can't remember that such joyous times, but I also want people to go home no matter, regardless of who they are, their accolades. But I hear both sides of the fence, and I tend to agree with both sides. And I know that's hard to talk about on a show because we need to pick one side or the other. But
well, I know everybody wants him in the race, right? It would be really unfortunate if he got sent home. But at the same time, Jimmy Johnson almost got sent home last year. If the race had been half a mile shorter, I think J.J. Yeley would have bumped 7-time champion Jimmy Johnson out. So, and then like we hear this rule, like this provisional needs to be applied for like 90 days in advance or something. I don't know. What if Legacy Motor Club had applied on behalf of Jimmy Johnson, right? He's a living legend of the sport. I think he would probably qualify. Martin Truex Jr. is a Cup Series champion as well. He's going to be trying to make his debut with Tricon. Like, I don't know. It seems to me like if you only have one of these spots open, it seems way too open for NASCAR's discretion and NASCAR's discretion only. Like, it doesn't seem like, it seems like this is something that won't come up super often and is well-intentioned because you want to get your big name in the race.
Yes.
But I just don't know in reality how well it works. I think that it, like I said, it's kind of a slippery slope here. You don't know what circumstances it could lead to in the future.
I want to give it the benefit of the doubt. I want to think it's a very special one-time case with a multiple Indy 500 champion from a different discipline of racing. But at the same time, I think if you're going to give it to Elio, you need to be giving it to Jimmy Johnson. And if Richard Petty were of age, and he wanted to enter the Daytona 500, if you're going to give it to someone who has had success outside of our sport, if you care so much about the, people outside of the sport coming in, if you treat them with such hospitality, you sure as heck need to give that same hospitality, if not more, to your 7-time champions that are living and want to still make starts in your biggest race all year.
Yeah. And well, on that note, we know what maybe a 41st spot's going to open up for Elio. Let me just go through some of the open cars here for the Daytona 500. Martin Truex Jr., Tricon, trying to make one final Daytona 500 start, perhaps. Jimmy Johnson's back in his own car, Legacy MC. Corey LaJoie is going to be part-time this year with Rickware Racing, the number 01, tribute to his podcast, Stacking Pennies. He's going to be trying to make the race. Chandler Smith, that Garage 66 car. That's 4 names right there, plus Elio. We haven't even gotten to Justin Allgaier yet. Junior Motorsports is trying to make their Cup debut. That's a big story.
There's so
Anthony
many.
Alfredo, Beard Motorsports, always very fast. Live Fast Motorsports. BJ McLeod, they're going to be back. J.J. Yeley nearly stole the show last year. There's 45 cars on this entry list, which is great. But I'm looking at this entry list, Brandon. I'm thinking to myself, surely a big name is going to get bumped.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. And I think you want to ask me who I think that's going to be. Possibly. I mean,
go ahead.
Take your pick. If Jimmy Johnson is not getting a provisional, not getting that, not getting that guaranteed start like we're giving our IndyCar champion Elio Castroneves. He's on the chopping block. Truex could be on the chopping block. You absolutely could have a big star going home, and I like that. I think that's what's going to make Wednesday night so fun. Oh, well, sorry, not Thursday night. Wednesday night qualifying for.
Both of them, because 2 names will lock their way in on speed on Wednesday, and then we'll find out the last ones in the duels. But yeah,
absolutely. You have a probably a greater chance this year than many other years previous, or in a long time, for a big name to not make the show. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's great drama, and it's going to encourage people to tune in. It's going to encourage people to talk about it on social media. And if there's anything Speed Week needs, it's more attention. We need more attention on everything besides the race. I think the race is doing fine on its own, but we need to give people more reasons to tune in on these weeknights too.
Yeah, that's what makes the Indy 500 qualifying so special. Is it just doesn't matter who you are. And even here, we still know what 90% of the field is going to look like. But I'm telling you, man, we don't have a champions provisional anymore. I bet Jimmy Johnson and Martin Truex Jr. both wish we did. But if I were a fan of either of those two drivers, I'd be nervous. Because I think Toyota has struggled for single lap speed in Daytona 500 qualifying in the past. I just don't have the confidence that they're going to be in the top two on Wednesday night to lock their way in. I think they might have to race their way in. And I mean, imagine if they're in the same duel. I think it's, if you had to look at it on paper for favorites, you got to like Truex and Johnson and Justin Allgaier and Elio are probably the four biggest names, right? But
yes, but
of those being the four, I don't know. I like some of these underdogs, man. I think it's going to be tough.
I do too. And with Truex Jr., like that wrap is so deceiving because it looks like he's in a Joe Gibbs machine. No, it's a truck team making a cup start, or attempting to anyway. This is not their wheelhouse. It's a completely different machine. And these big names are going to struggle. I'm with you. There's going to be some upset and some hurt feelings and some money wasted because you're not making it to Sunday.
All right, Adam laying out some Xfinity predictions for us. Conor Zilic wins more than 5 races, claims Rookie of the Year and the Xfinity Series Championship. Also, Busch replaces Xfinity in 2026. Boy,
there you go.
Would we love to see that? Of course, Xfinity announcing they're not leaving the sport. In fact, they're introducing the fastest lap point this year. We didn't even get to that. I'm sure that's going to be a storyline to follow throughout the year, but their entitlement sponsorship is going to be done after this year. I think everybody's got Busch on the front of their minds based on what Craftsman did when Camping World left in 2022. So that's going to be an interesting storyline to follow as well. Brandon, right before we head off here, because I see we're at 8 o'clock, I want to get everybody over to Brock's 500 Days stream.
Sure.
ARCA, Trucks, and Xfinity, do you have any predictions for who's going to park in victory lane this weekend?
Oh, goodness. ARCA. Let's just go ahead and say Isabella Robusto. Let's give her a win pick here.
That would be a big story.
I mean, it would. Greg Van Alst was a big story too. So let's see that happen for Trucks. It's going to be multiple overtime restarts, and we're all going to be upset. But at the end of it, I think we're going to see Chandler Smith win there in that 38. For Front Row Motorsports, and they're going to continue their recent success here at Daytona. And for Xfinity, I'm going to go with the favorite story. I'm going to say it's going to be that number 8 and Sammy Smith. Going to get some help from his friends.
I'm going to go with Jake Finch in the ARCA race. I'm going to say, man, I don't know. Trucks is tough. I'm kind of tempted to go the Front Row Motorsports path alongside you, Brandon, but I'm going to say the other driver. I'm going to say Lane Riggs in the 34.
That's a good pick, too.
Xfinity, I think Justin Allgaier picks up right where he left off. I'm going to say Junior Motorsports is going to be strong in the draft. Allgaier will be the one to get the job done in the Xfinity race.
I mean, with Daytona, it's still like picking the lottery, but that's what makes it fun.
It certainly is. All right. Well, thank you all so much for watching the season premiere of GRID Encore. Thank you for sticking with us through the technical difficulties we had midway through the show. Be sure to follow the GRID Network on all our social media platforms, X/Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, LinkedIn, Threads, Blue Sky. We're everywhere these days. Most importantly, subscribe to us right here on YouTube. Help us continue to grow on this platform. And again, if you really like what you saw tonight, you can take a few minutes after the show to invest in our Patreon. Join Colin, Michelle, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew in helping us grow this motorsports media outlet and get to the track on a more regular basis here in 2025 and beyond. Or if you'd rather make a one-time contribution, you can visit the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description box below as well. Now, Brock Beard, I believe right now, starting his premiere of 500 Days, episode 10. I put the link in the chat. Be sure you go check that out. Follow me over there. I'm going to be in the chat room tonight there as well as soon as we sign off here. But before we sign off, looking ahead at our upcoming schedule, GRID tonight was Kobe, Josh, and Matt on Wednesday. Special editions of GRID Live pre-race for the Daytona Duels and Sunday for the Daytona 500, and then wrap up an encore shows to follow. As always, Brandon, any final thoughts before we sign off for tonight?
I'm just really excited for this new year. Optimistic. I know we little sour taste in our mouths maybe from last season, but There's always something else to complain about. I'm ready to have a really fun 2025 with the sport, and excited to share it with all of you, and to share it with you, Ben, here on GRID Encore. So thank you for being with us tonight, and looking forward to all year long.
So, Brandon, I got to tell you, Saturday afternoon, I went to go see Frankie Muniz's new movie. He's got a new movie out called Renner. It's a science fiction AI thriller. It got very dark very quickly. I still don't know whether the movie was good or not, because it's certainly not my genre. I feel like I'm not qualified to speak on the quality of a movie like that. But Frankie, of course, going to be full-time for the Rayum Brothers truck team this year. So
surprised he had the time to make a movie.
Yeah. Malcolm in the Middle got that reboot coming out as well later this year. So he's going to be very busy. But I believe the movie's still out for a couple more days. It's got a limited theater run when it comes to streaming next month. So if you want to check that out and support Frankie's work, you can stream the movie, or you can go to a truck race this year, because he's going to be very busy and doing both of those full time. So we wish him the best in his 2025 season as well. For Brandon Crosslin, I'm Ben Schneider. 500 Days up next on Brock Beard's channel. We'll see you over there. Have a good one.